Good evening. It's about 12:31, so I think I will,
6:31.
pardon me, 6:31. I will call this meeting to order and ask for the roll call.
Anderson,
Here.
Hartke,
Here.
Kibler, Quisenberry, Rosales,
Here.
Schwartz, Maxwell.
Here. I believe we just barely have a quorum, so I think we should proceed with the meeting. And I'll ask for the approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. I ask now for the approval of the minutes of the Facilities Committee meeting November 6, 2014.
So moved.
Motion by Hartke, second. Do we have a second?
Second.
I wasn't present during the meeting, so I'm not sure I can approve those.
I'll second.
I
Okay,
think I have to
thank you.
abstain under the circumstances.
Second by Rosales. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay,
No, just, I would have to abstain from that, I think.
I think it still carries. Thank you. Now I will ask for public participation, and I have one request, and that's from Dorothy Vera Weiss. State your name and address, please.
Good evening. I'm Dorothy Vera-Wise. I live at 2103 Mills Drive in Urbana. I've spoken with most of you before. I'm glad to see there are at least one new member on the committee. And I'm speaking again about concerns regarding the jail facilities and sheriff's operations consultation contract, which I see is on the agenda this evening in anticipation of it being brought up at next month's meeting. I'd like to say again that I really hope that the report from Gorski, Kimmy, and Reifstock will include at least an option for a jail population that's significantly lower than the current population that's been reported as somewhere between 180 and 240 people per day at the jail. I hope that it will include a projection and planning for a number that's 20 to 30% below that number. The reports from the National Institute on Corrections in 2011 and ILPP in 2013 and the Community Justice Task Force in 2013 all made recommendations for changes in procedures and changes in developing alternatives to incarceration, prevention programs, reentry programs, a number of measures that would cause a lower number of people to be housed in prison. And in addition, the NIC suggested that the people who were the low-risk offenders that are currently in the jail could be housed in a dormitory-type setting, perhaps in relocatable buildings that would be on the satellite jail premises with a security fence around it, so that they would still be able to participate in programs in the public spaces in the satellite jail in general. But that this, again, would be a lower cost option that would not take so much funding from the county. According to Mr. Kimmy's report a couple of months ago, approximately 34% of the people in jail at the date that he studied were those low-risk offenders that don't need the medium and maximum security measures. Planning for a smaller facility, a less costly facility, would make more money available for those prevention programs and those alternative programs, which in turn make it so that you don't need as many people in the main jail facility. By making those changes, putting money into prevention programs and alternative programs, then again, you are continuing the cycle where you have fewer people that are needing the jail facilities. So rather than being a vicious cycle, this is a positively reinforcing beneficial cycle that would be good for the community. The outcome that's most important is having a safe community for those of us who live and work in Champaign County. And I think that using the funds that are available to the county through the public safety tax that would be related to improving public safety, not only by the jail construction and facility and operations, but also by these other prevention programs, is within the charge for the use of that tax money, and I suggest that that be considered. And also, even though this is a facilities committee and your main responsibility is looking at what to do with the actual hard county facilities, the report that will be coming should provide background information so that good decisions can be made on what uses our county tax money is put to. So again, I would suggest that if the consultant's report doesn't already include an option for a lower number of people being housed inside the jail, that that still be added to what they're asked to report on. This was a suggestion that I also made last summer. Don't have any way of knowing whether you've acted on that, but I really think that that will help to make it easier for the county board as a whole to do its job well in how it spends the county money. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate your participation.
Thank you.
The next item would be communications. Are there any communications that are appropriate at this time? All right, hearing none, I request that we go on into the presentation by Mary Tiefenbaum, Executive Director of the Humane Society. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Mary Tiefenbrunn. I'm Executive Director of the Champaign County Humane Society, and I have been since the fall of 2007. And I want to thank you for adding us to the agenda tonight. Also with me is Kathleen Holden. She's our board president at the Humane Society. As I think you know, the Humane Society's building sits on county land. We lease the land, but we own all our buildings, and we are responsible for our grounds and our improvements, and we are an independent, not-for-profit agency. We're not a government agency in any way. We'd like to open negotiations with the county for a longer-term land lease because it has become apparent to us that we need to make some substantial investments in our building and our facility, and we'd want to make sure that we're going to be in the building long enough to see the return on those investments. So I'm here tonight to just give you a little bit of background and explain to you what it is that we would like to do and why we would like to have a little longer-term commitment from the county for our land. Our first lease with the county was entered into in 1986. It was a 25-year lease for $1. At that time, the building did not exist, but the Humane Society had a contract with Champaign County to provide certain animal control services, which involved the housing of animals for animal control, as well as the handling of lost and found complaints and adoption of animals and disposition of animals that were not claimed. We completed our building in 1988. In 2003 or 2004 it was, our contract with the county changed and we no longer provided animal control services, and as some of you probably remember, that's when the county built their own animal control facility, which is now down the block from us. We still have a good relationship with Champaign County Animal Control. We take animals from Champaign County that are unclaimed but are suitable for adoption, and we place them up for adoption at our facility. Our current lease was negotiated in 2011, and it's a 5-year lease running from January 1, 2012 through December of 2016. It's 5 years with an option to renew for another 5 upon notice given and upon negotiated terms. We currently pay about $542 a month for the land. So why are we looking to make improvements at this point? The big picture reasons are that there's been a lot of change since 1988. There have been developments locally that have affected our operations, so we need to make some changes to our building to accommodate that. And there have been major developments in the field of animal sheltering generally. We know a lot more now about how to house animals in a way that promotes animal health and promotes adoption. What we want to do, there are 3 things that we want to address. The first is we'd like to do a modest expansion of the building itself so that we can expand our lobby area, our cat housing area, and our small animal housing area. I'll first talk a little bit about the lobby. This is our current front desk and intake desk. The intake desk is the closest desk to you on the screen, and then the circular area is where our adoption staff works. You can see it's a little bit crowded. And this is a different view of the same area showing you how close the front counter is to the front entrance. It also shows some cat cages that we have lining the wall there. When we're open to the public and there are people in the building, it gets very crowded very quickly. You can't, if someone's looking at one of those cats in a cage, only one person can pass behind them. As you can see, intakes are right at that same area, so we'll have people from the public coming in with a dog that they'd like to surrender, for example. This is an unknown animal, may not be well socialized, and it's in the same area where people are trying to visit with adoptable animals and meet with our adoption staff. So our ability to do customer service is hampered greatly by the layout of the lobby and how crowded it gets. You'll also see there are 3 doors you can see. When the shelter was originally built, those were conference rooms and a library. Now those are cat housing rooms. 2 of them, the 2 that are farthest from the front door, are actually now communal rooms where cats live and walk around freely, up to 10 cats in each of those rooms, no more than that for sure. Those are cats that get along well with other cats and that maybe have been at the shelter a little bit longer, and we want to give them an opportunity to live outside of a cage, and they all get along with each other. So that's one of the developments in sheltering that has come about, nationally, is that some cats do great in a communal room, and it's a more humane way to house them if they're going to be there for a while. The first room on the right as you come in the front door is the room where we have cats in cages. Initially, when the shelter was built, all our cats were housed in a room of cages, which is off the dog kennel, which is in the back. That room is no longer sufficient to hold the number of cats that we need to house, and it hasn't been sufficient for a long time. Plus, it's off the dog kennels, which is noisy and not very conducive for cat health. So this is our main front cat room, and as you can see, we're housing cats in basically dog crates. They're not ideal. They don't present well to the public, and they don't give the cats quite enough space. Based on current standards for sheltering that are provided by the Association of Shelter Veterinarians, cats need enough space to get a little bit away from their litter box, a little bit away from their food bowls, and they need to be able to hide and get on an elevated level. The reason that all these things are important is not because we just want cats to live in luxury. It's because when cats are less stressed, they stay healthy. When the cats are less stressed, they are more adoptable, and we will be able to move them out of the shelter quickly, the more appropriate housing we provide for them. And that's our goal. We're looking to expand our space so that we can provide better housing for the cats, not so that we can provide more housing for cats. We do not want to increase the number of cats that we house at the Humane Society. We would just like to improve the quality of their life while they're with us and improve the rate at which we can place them in homes. This is an example of the type of housing that is now standard and state-of-the-art for cat housing at animal shelters that are being built now. As you can see, it provides each cat with 2 levels, and it also has a separate area for their litter box. They can go through that little porthole into the area where the litter box is. There are a number of designs similar to this that have, there are pros and cons to having the litter box in such a small area. Some cats are bigger and they can't fit in there, so this might not be exactly what we go with, but this is an example of the kind of improvement we would like to see in our cat housing. let's see, this is our current small animal area. Also, we've really just added a small animal area to the hallway between the front lobby and the dog kennels. We now have, on average per month, 26 small animals up for adoption. Ferrets, hamsters, guinea pigs, chinchillas, mice, rats, gerbils, anything, any small companion animal, we will accept from the public and place up for adoption. So there are times when we have, we get inundated. Over the summer, we had it for a while, 22 rabbits, and then once again, we have cages that start filling that lobby area. We don't like to do that, but we also don't like to euthanize animals that are perfectly adoptable just because we don't have a good space for them. So we're constantly struggling with our small animal area. And because it's on the way to the kennels, when adopters want to see a dog, we're walking dogs by these small prey animals all the time, and it's got to be stressful for them. So this is a floor plan. It's a work in progress. This is not finalized by any means, but this shows the expansion that we'd like to do on the east end of the building. And as you can see, it opens up the lobby a little bit so that there's a little more room for people, and there's a bench for seating right inside the front door. It still gives us 3 communal cat rooms, which will be, you know, a nice size for maybe 5 cats, which is now what's recommended as like the maximum for a communal room. And then the room on the very east end, where it looks like you can see cages going vertically, that would be the main cat room for the caged cats. There's also a room for small animals, and there's 4 get acquainted rooms just for adoptions. And then we've got 2 intake rooms so that when you come in that front door and go to the left, there's a conference room, but then there's 2 intake rooms so that we can try to move people who are there to do intakes kind of out of the flow of traffic and give them some quiet rooms where those animals can be a little bit calm while their owners fill out paperwork. So this, in total, is going to be about 1,200 square feet, a little bit more. But it would improve our operations enormously. How it will look from the outside, we have a couple, this is that end of the building now, just to put it in context for you, and our architects have done a couple drawings to show you what it might look like when we complete the expansion. So you can, it's pretty clear, I think, where the roof line changes. See what we would be adding on. We'd be adding on that little entryway in the front and then the expansion on the east end. And that would be a view sort of from the front. The only other main improvement that we'd like to make at this time would be an improvement to our dog kennel area. We'd like to do a facelift in the dog kennels. So this does not involve an expansion, but for us it does involve a major investment in the building that we're in. This is a current picture of our dog kennels. It pretty much looks like an old style pound. We've got the chain link that we've had there since 1988. The next slide shows an example of the kind of facelift that these kind of kennels are getting. As you can see, the cinder block dividers are still the same. We don't have to knock out the cinder block, but there are a variety of options for new facing on kennels that make the look of the kennel much more cheerful. It provides a more pleasant experience for adopters and a more a safer and more manageable experience for the staff and volunteers that are working with the animals. We can get features like these where we can change water and food bowls without actually opening the kennel and going inside. So there's just a lot of advancement in the whole field of shelter construction and design. And so we'd like to invest in a complete makeover for the kennel area so that it looks better and so that we can provide the animals with maybe some better options. Maybe some of the kennels can have solid panel on the front door for dogs that get overstimulated, and some of the kennels can have a more open look. It all, you know, we just have a lot of options and a lot of ways we can make the dogs more happier and more adoptable. It's all about getting them adopted. So that sort of wraps up what we would like to do and why we're asking for a longer-term commitment from the county so that we can stay in our current home and make it a lot better for our animals and for the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Josh,
Yeah, how many years are you looking for to get on this new lease?
Ideally, 25?
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Stephen Brun, I'm very supportive of what you're asking to do, very supportive of what your society has done. And I think that we would like to see a specific plan or a specific agreement that you could bring to, maybe submit to us
Okay.
through the Administrator, Deb Busey's office. Deb, would you like to help me with that?
I have talked with the state's attorney about the county board's capacity for entering into longer-term leases. And based on her opinion and the current law, she believes that 10 years is probably the maximum that a single county board could enter into. There are two statutes that guide. One of them says that the longest lease that a county board can enter into is 2 years for the current term of the board, not binding a future board. But if the county board can determine that the real estate is no longer necessary for the county, then the county board may lease the real estate as it deems appropriate. And in determining that the real estate is no longer necessary includes appropriate, required for the use of the county, profitable to the county, or for the best interest of the county. If all those criteria are met, and it is approved by a 3/4 vote of the county board, you can enter into a longer-term lease, but unfortunately, the greatest length that she thinks is reasonable is 10 years. So the statutes were much different back in 1986 when a 25-year lease was entered into. So I would want you to be aware of that and the committee to be aware of that in case that impacts how you would present your request.
Okay.
Thank you, Deb. Geraldo, please.
How is the monthly charge assessed? I believe in 1988, it was 1 cent for the land, and I guess now it's 5.42. How was that determined?
When we negotiated in 2011, we had an independent appraiser come up with an appraisal, and we negotiated with Deb, and I believe the chair of this committee, based on the appraisal, and then, of course, we pointed out all the services we provide the county. So we came up with an amount that I think both sides were comfortable with.
So the assumption would be that at that rate, it would be for the next 10 years then?
According to the lease, we have an option to renew after 5 years, and we would be renegotiating the rate at the 5-year point.
It's a 5-year point. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Quizzen.
So if we're limited to a 10-year lease situation, we are able as a board to sell property, correct? So there are other approaches that could be considered if that was of interest. Right, okay.
Okay, would ask that then you go back and determine what's best for you folks, and submit your request to the administrator, our administrator. And we'll go from there. And if there may be some other options that may become available, we might want to study, we'd be more than happy to do that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next item of business is the facility director's report. Dana?
Thanks, Jerry. First up is just a quick update. At the last board meeting, you guys, full board meeting in December, passed a resolution to dismiss invitation to bid number 2014-008. That was to purchase and install new boilers, air handlers, digital controls here in the Brookins Administration Building. We had 6 mechanical contractors, 2 electricians attend our pre-bid mandatory meeting on November 12th. On December 5th, we opened up 3 sealed bids that we received for review and posting. The bids ranged from the lowest of $651,000 to $885,000. These numbers were significantly higher than we certainly anticipated, both the physical plant as well as our controls contractor anticipated numbers more in the range of $430,000 to $480,000. Thus, we submitted the resolution that was passed. We have contacted the 3 bidders to inform them. I've talked personally to 2 of them. We attempted to get some information from them that was certainly not classified, nor did we ask any specific prices. But what did they feel caused their bids to be significantly higher? And basically what we found from at least 2 of the bidders commented that the definition of of several aspects of our drawings were not defined enough for them, and so they increased their amounts. And what I mean in that is in terms of the electric conduit runs, the gas piping line runs, the insulation, and then the ventilation piping from our boilers and a water heater. All increased, all of the contractors increased their costs because of that. Additionally, because of the short installation time frame, we're talking about boilers, so we have to wait till the end of winter, but at the same time, we were eligible for a DCEO grant, and we had to have our funding and contract and project completed prior to May 8th. So we had a very short window. I think, stipulated starting March 23rd and asked them to be finished May 1st. With that short window, it really forced the contractors to increase their wages and overtime by 25 to 30% of their labor or their wages for their labor in their bids. Additionally, the testing and balancing needed to be further defined from at least one contractor, stipulating, which vents, which openings needed to be tested and balanced. They increased theirs significantly, just as the guest high, basically. So with that, we think that we will pull together this information. We'll talk to our digital controls contractor. We'll talk to Deb and Van. We will wait to see what comes forth out of the Gorski Restack information that's coming at the next meeting relative to the integrity of the facility. We know we need, and we've budgeted to replace the seals on the precast at the satellite jail. But we still have to, and haven't come up with a number yet, what's it going to take to repair the cracks in the precast panels? And is there further investigation of how those cracks, what's causing those cracks to occur, need to happen? So before we get back into the Brookins boilers, air handlers, we'd like to have that information in front of us. Ultimately, when we get back to the Brookins boilers, air handlers, if our pricing is such, we may have to split boilers from air handlers and the digital controls to be able to adequately fund the project, so we can at least get going with it to try and finish this building and replacing the original mechanicals in it. Any questions on? Next one is just a quick update on the Brookins Administrative Center mechanical controls project currently ongoing. It's in pod 200 and 300. Alpha Controls was contracted to improve the energy efficiency here at Brookins with heating, cooling, and ventilation. The contract amount, if you remember, was $139,000. The project estimated to save up to 29% on electricity and about 27% on natural gas. Costs annually providing an estimated project payback of 36 months. To assist in the funding, we put in a DCEO grant, which was approved. We can receive up to basically 75%, which is $104,000 return. In addition to that, Kirk Kirkland and I attended a DCO trade rally back in September and picked up a 15% coupon that can be added to that 75%. So we're actually getting more bang for the buck and getting $120,000, 650 some odd dollars back once this project is completed. We're at basically 99% completion as of today. Today and tomorrow, our maintenance staff, all 9 of them, are going through training on the new building operation system. And then Thursday as well, there's a little bit more work to do. And then on Monday, we're having our walkthrough. Our punch list will be put down on paper, and we anticipate that the project will be completed by the end of January. And once their invoices are submitted, obviously we'll be paying, and then we'll be submitting our final paperwork to DCO for our grant money.
Any questions?
Quick update on the IT services backup generator project that got started on July 22nd when a purchase order was issued to GHR Engineering to provide construction documents to the new emergency power backup system for IT, as well as assisting the county in formalizing a bid document. Additionally, GHR was to include overseeing the construction project itself. Their cost, if you remember, was not to exceed $10,400. On August 8th, the physical plant posted an invitation to bid number 2014-07 for the purchase and installation of a generator and accompanying transfer switches for our Brookins building. On August 28th, we opened up 5 sealed bids for review. Bids ranged from the lowest of $79,630 to the high of $188,000 even. Barbara Diatley was a local contractor here in Champaign, was the lowest contractor. Signed a contract with them on the 16th and a purchase order. So combined, the project actually with Diatley and GHR, the project is going to cost $90,030. Barbara Diatley began working here in the building on the 3rd of November of 2014. We're about 90% finished. We're waiting on just a couple of long lead items for the transfer switches. The generator is here. If it was light out, you could see it. It's sitting back here in our little courtyard. We had a large crane drop it in place and put it on a new pad. So we're at 90%. The plumber is showing up actually this Thursday, providing weather is okay to hook up the natural gas line, which will power the generator. It's just a few feet away from where the generator's sitting. We got a couple of more things to do with electrician work. As I mentioned, the long lead items, that's about 2 days. So we'll hope to have a factory rep from Cummings here sometime next week. I don't have an actual date yet, but we'll do the initial startup and take us through the process. And once that's done and everything's working, we'll finalize a punch list. And again, that project will also be finalized by the end of January.
Quisenberry?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Dina, what kind of, once it's in place, what kind of schedule do you think we'll follow for testing and validation of the failover capabilities?
We have a schedule that we follow on all our buildings that have generators once a month. Once a month, we'll run them for, depending upon the facility and the any legislative need for those entities. There's a nursing home regulations that we've got to run it for an hour, and then once every other month you have to run it under full load. It's different at the jails, and it's certainly, highway and JDC are a little bit different too. But we plan on running it once a month for probably at least an hour, and probably 2 or 3 times a year we'll test it under load.
Any other questions? Okay.
The next one is just a quick final update. Hopefully, most of you have been able to go by the courthouse clock tower and bell tower at night and see the new LED lighting that was put in place. I've handed out some information that's on your desk to give you just kind of a final rack-up of cost. Total price for the project was $16,308.04. $9,579 was for Aladdin Electric work, the actual electricians who installed the lights. And remember, we rented. The only cost to the county will ultimately be the cost of the 150-foot lift that was rented for 3 days to actually put the lights up. And you couldn't pay me enough to get on that lift and get up there in the wind. It was pretty amazing to see. In addition, the Springfield Electric, the actual fixtures themselves, cost $6,729.04. All of that will be reimbursed by the Citizens Clock and Bell Tower Committee, which unanimously agreed to support this project. So all in all, it's a win for everyone. We'll have used less utilities and lighting up a beautiful piece of our county heritage, and every member of the clock committee has gone out of the way to either send a positive note or say a positive word about what they feel about the lighting. So.
Very good. Any questions?
Next up is the Illinois Green Business Association project. Josh is very familiar with this. This is where we've contacted the Illinois Green Business Association to try to get Brookins certified under their process. We've had countless meetings over the last 3 months. We are very close to receiving our certification with the process. We just have to verify a couple of last-minute details, which I hope to have done here by the end of the month and receive our certification. And will be posted and on their website certainly. But it's a positive thing certainly for the county and for Brookins. It's been a good group to put together here within the Brookins building, and basically to ensure that everyone is aware within their departments about ways to cut down on our use of whether it's paper or utilities or whatever, in trying to make our resources go a lot further.
Very good. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
The last one is really just a quick note and to remind everybody that the Gorski Reef Stack will be presenting at the next meeting, which is February 2nd. We're a facilities committee here.
What is Tuesday? It's got third and the second. Okay.
It's the 3rd. In addition to that, for those of you who didn't make the tour today, we will be touring again at the next facility committee meeting, the satellite jail. We'll meet in the parking lot at 5:15. Hope you can all make it. It'll last no more than 45, 50 minutes when we're back in time for our 6:30 meeting.
Okay, any other questions of Dana?
I just had one thing,
Go ahead.
Gary, to mention. I just, with the completion of the bell tower lighting, I just wanted to recognize again the generosity of Mrs. Elva Greason, who donated a substantial amount of money that is now used by the Citizens Group to fund these kinds of projects, and I think we should recognize her generosity again.
Thank you, James, for doing that. I totally agree with you. The next item of business would be other business. Is there any other business that needs to come before the committee that we need to address? Yes, Mr. Quisenberry.
One more thing. Maybe I should have asked this before Dana finished up, but the Illinois Green Business Association, it was a small investment, but are we gonna have any kind of assessment after it's done as to what we think we're going to get back based on their advice and their participation?
We're talking through that. That's actually a topic for the next several meetings that's on our agenda. How can we get the fact that we'll be certified, we will be eligible for certification, and get that out there besides their website? How can we positively use that within the community? So those kinds of things are going to be kicked around with their executive director.
I mean, I was an advocate of doing that because, one, it was a small investment, and two, I thought we would get it back several times over by their advice, but in retrospect, at some point, I'd like to look back and say, yeah, we did actually make some changes that we think are going to pay for that study or pay more than that study back in the long term.
Mr. Rosales.
Well, on that note, I did want to make a couple comments, which was, were there any insights or any possibilities of new grants for green certification or green updates? When they were presenting this project to us, they were going to also provide a list of opportunities for the county to delve into regarding cost savings and grants, federal grants as well as state grants.
To date, the only grants that has been discussed with us, they would be very helpful with, very willing to assist us with anything from DCEO, Illinois Act Now. There's one other agency that's out there. I've not talked to them, nor have I heard about other opportunities. I was not at that presentation, so I'm unaware of those comments specifically. But it's something I will certainly ask
Yeah, it
about.
was sort of like initiatives that the government had to sort of support counties to move forward on green projects. And these were like incentives. I know that the light bulbs was one of those that we would be getting at, at very limited cost or very low cost, that we would create a lot of savings on replacing a lot of incandescent lighting. So, okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. I think then I'll move on to the chair's report, and I have a few comments. First of all, I want to thank all of you on the committee for agreeing to serve on this committee for the next 2 years. I feel quite fortunate that to have such an outstanding group to work with. The county facilities are necessary and important part of doing the people's business. The citizens of Champaign County have invested a great deal in building and maintaining a safe, adequate set of efficient buildings for our employees to work and for our constituents to be served. Maintaining, upgrading, and replacing obsolete facilities when necessary is a work in progress. Page 13 of the county board rules charge this committee as follows. 1, we're to review and approve construction and remodeling, maintenance and operation of county buildings, property, and recreational land in compliance with all federal and state requirements. B, we are to review topics involving acquisition, leasing, and disposition of real property for the county, and we did that, in fact, this evening. C, establish plans and approve long-range goals and development of plans for county facilities. And we'll talk a little bit more about that a little further on down the meeting. And we'll provide overall supervision of matters relating to county facilities. And Dana is doing a good job and is being a great assistance to us with this charge that we have. I suggest this committee has several duties and objectives for this next 2 years. We need to oversee and provide for routine and unforeseen maintenance of our facilities. And it seems like it's always a stamping out a fire somewhere. That's just part of doing business. We'd like to ask our facilities director to complete an assessment of needs of each building with an estimate of cost to address those needs. I'd like to have that done within the next year. Dana has indicated to me he thinks he can get that done. Because I feel we need this set of assessments of needs in order to make adequate plans for the future. I'd like to see us to develop a strategic plan and to prioritize a list of facility improvements for the next 3 to 5 years. And I suggest that that strategic plan be a part of and subservient, I guess you would call it, to the general strategic plan that the county is working on and will be working on in the near future. I think it's important. Funding is going to be a significant problem for us, and if we had adequate money, there would not be a need for us. Actually, we don't have that. So, I think it's important for this committee to work with other committees within the county board over the next couple of years and try to find sufficient revenues for our most pressing needs and to implement priorities and implement portions of the strategic plan. I think, and also we need to keep the citizens of Champaign County informed as to our progress and to our problems as we proceed. I ask for your support. I'll ask for your advice and your ideas. And I like ideas no matter how wild they may seem at times, because this is what brings about innovation and change. I pledge to be courteous and respectful in return. My definition of success would be for us to look back 2 years hence and be able to say we made significant progress in improving our facilities and that we had fun in doing so. That's probably the last editorial you're going to get from me. But the future meeting of this committee will be Tuesday, February 3rd? Okay, at 6:30, with a tour of the satellite facility, and we'll leave again, as Dana has pointed out, 5:15 prior to the meeting to make a tour of the satellite jail. In the coming months, and as the county board proceeds with its strategic plan of the overall county operation, I think we'll probably continue to have the topic of strategic plan as part of our agenda, so that we may be able to do a certain amount of it each time. It probably will be another 2 or 3 months before the county has progressed far enough with the plan. And Deb, correct me if I'm not looking at this right, but at some point in the next 2 or 3 months, we'll probably get more involved in what our strategic plan will look like. And it's going to take a little while, but I think we'll be able to accomplish that. A designation of items to be placed on the consent agenda. I don't believe we have any. We acted on, didn't have any action items at all. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Hartke, Mr. Rosales. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for coming.